everybody, this is John, and welcome to the free video tonight. We are going to look on the free video, two charts, 15-minute regular session, 15-minute after-hour session, and then just how these stocks kind of relate to the voodoo line. So you can see today, prior to earnings, Facebook came up and paused a little bit below its voodoo tree line, which is the strongest level it has. It's only traded up to this level and briefly through it. And then after hours, you can see it blew through that level, and where is it consolidating? At the snow line. So how these work is that the red one is the most important. That's the strongest. The green line is the second most important. It's the second strongest. And then the white line is the third most important. And then the blue ones are kind of pausing points along the way. But typically what happens is that if you can get through one, you just kind of get sucked up to the other. The interesting thing about earnings moves is that earnings kind of magnify the effect. So one thing we did here in the room after hours is that once we tried to buy Facebook on a pullback, and then once it broke out, we actually just went with it with the idea that it would get up to that snow line, right? And so we bought shares. I sold about a fifth or 4/5 of the shares once we approached the snow line. And I'm just keeping a token 1,000 shares overnight in case we keep going. But it was a nice way using the extended session and the snow lines to play Facebook stock on earnings. And then the other one I was watching today, so Priceline. So I've been actually, believe it or not, bearish on Priceline. You might think, why would I ever be bearish on Priceline? Well, before you think I'm completely crazy, let me show you this chart of Priceline on a daily chart. And what I'm just looking at is that on Priceline on a daily chart, we're in a downtrend. So that was that high there, and you can see that this is a downtrend, no matter how you look at it. And we're also coming to an interesting kind of a wedge pattern here too. So Priceline is going to have an explosive move one way or the other, either to the upside or to the downside. So what I've been doing is, as it has been rallying here, is I've been selling call credit spreads with the idea that this would hold, and we would at least come back towards 1,200 or so by this expiration. And one of the things that we're looking at is today there was TripAdvisor's had earnings. And you can see here that Priceline came up to this voodoo line, that tree line, which also lined up with that downtrend line that we just looked at. So to me, that was a big wall of resistance because of that voodoo line. And it was a safe area to sell call credit spreads. Well, then after hours, you can see here Priceline's down about, from where it closed, around 1237 or so, down $10 after hours from where it closed based on Trip earnings. But also, when the voodoo line is there, it typically acts as resistance. And so here we are coming back down. So now the call credit spreads we sold look good, assuming it can continue going. But again, another way to kind of use those voodoo lines to just kind of stay on the right side there. And then Netflix, the after hours chart isn't that important, but I just wanted to show you the fire line. So once, here's the earnings, we consolidate along the fire line. Once you get through that, it's kind of done. And so what I did is when it rallied back up to the fire line, this is where I started selling call credit spreads and buying puts. And with the idea that we could actually come down to the snow line. Now, I don't know if we're going to get all the way down to the snow line, but could we at least get down to that 418.87? To me, that's something that's very plausible. So as we look at this in terms of managing risk, what I'll be doing here is we've got mostly it's this 430, 435 call credit spread, and then bought some puts here as well, with the idea though that we could actually get to 423 and then 418. If we start moving back up above this fire line, then I'll just cut those loose. And last but not least, in terms of the major indexes for the S&P 500 futures, I'm watching this 1984 level. You can see that we've come up here once, twice. We do have a squeeze setting up that could actually continue pushing us through this, but I'm actually looking at this as a fairly formidable resistance level that the markets are going to have to fight with tomorrow and the rest of the week. And just a reminder for those of you that have no idea what the Voodoo lines are. They're a very valuable part of my day-to-day trading. We're going to be doing a free webinar on Voodoo lines on Thursday, July 24th at 8 o'clock East Coast time, which of course is 7 o'clock Central. We'll be talking about how to identify key support resistance levels. What are Voodoo lines? And remember, ranking them red, green, white, etc. Why should you care about Voodoo lines? What are they telling us now? And then my favorite strategies using the Voodoo lines. This will be free. To attend, just put your first name and your email address, click on register now, and you'll be given the information to log in time for the webinar. You guys have a great night, and we'll see you at the next update.